on, people? This is your old pal, CHH. Come on in. We're talking about Vinegar Syndrome today. As a matter of fact, I'll probably have a few Vinegar Syndrome titles. One that we're going to talk about very soon is The Ripper, starring Tom Savini. Yeah, that's right. Tom Savini as The Ripper. I was super excited when I heard that got announced, so I'm going to watch that. That's probably going to be a special features reason to buy that movie, but we'll get into that. Today, guys, we're talking about the VSU line. If you kept up with me earlier this year, you saw that I got the bug, and I realized if there's something I want to collect with physical media specifically, some things are completely unattainable. Or not really unattainable, but just not practical. And I'm not even saying that the VSUs are technically practical, but there's less movies to deal with. Like, if you want to have a complete Scream Factory collection, good God, getting Squirm is going to be expensive. If you want to have a complete whatever collection, there's a lot of things where it's tough. But, like, with the VSU line, I thought, this is something I really like. These releases are gorgeous. They really, really, really show a level of prestige given to films. Some that rightfully deserve it. Some you could argue may not. But we're going to talk about today's newest ones. But let's run down what we have. We're going to go from the newest down to the oldest. So obviously in today's video, we're going to be talking about the Navy SEALs release. So that's our newest one. But before that, we had Southern Comfort. Really like that release. Daryl, I actually really like this movie. This was a good movie. Showgirls, I got a good price on this one. Good price on this one. And we got Sidekicks, which I'm excited. They announced that they're putting out Invasion USA. Little Chucky Norris action. The Real Roadhouse. I was not a fan of the remake at all. The Real Roadhouse, this one right here. Rest in peace, Patrick Swayze. I like Gyllenhaal, but there's only one Patrick Swayze. Cloak and Dagger. My dad freaked out when I showed him this because he said he loved this movie back in the day. This one has the coolest inserts. Look, it looks like an Atari game on the inside. Wicked cool. Six String Samurai. I thought this movie was okay. Not great, but okay. The first one I actually got was Beastmaster, and I actually got this when it was announced. So that is what we have, guys. So I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm situated. I missed a couple. Luckily, Sidekicks and Six String Samurai, I could still get them now. So that was easy. But the newest one, guys, I was super excited about this. It's funny. I do Vinegar Syndrome shows with Dead Pit. And I ham it up a little bit just to attempt to be entertaining. Some will probably argue you're not very entertaining, Christian. But, like, you know, we ham it up and stuff. And I remember somebody was like, Christian, why are you not excited for Navy SEALs? And I remember messaging them. And I was like, no, I think I really am. I just didn't know anything about it. What I really hope is my dream is for Bloodsport to get a VSU. But with Navy SEALs, I'm going to tell you why I actually became obsessively excited over this movie. So when Navy SEALs got announced, of course, that night I did pre-order the VSU. When I learned it was a VSU, I was like, well, I have to get Navy SEAls. This movie was actually a big deal when it came out. 1990, my Louis Teague film. Got Charlie Sheen and Michael Biehn in it. Bean, however you say his name. And yeah, it was a big deal. I looked at it as some sort of like a movie that would be trying to get the juju that Top Gun had, so to speak. But I'll tell you why I became obsessed about this movie when I was waiting for it. I looked into the soundtrack of this movie, fell in love. One of my favorite movie soundtracks I've seen so far. There's a song called I Don't Want to Say Goodbye by Planet 3 that will just bring a tear to your eye. The Boys Are Back in Town, the Bon Jovi version, which I actually love the Bon Jovi version. No, it's not as good as the original, but it's a good version. And there's two Mr. Big songs. I'm a huge fan of Mr. Big. If you're not familiar with that, Billy Sheehan's in the band, one of my favorite bass players, super talented guy. So, like, all that said, I became obsessed with this movie because of the soundtrack. I feel like this is kind of like a cult movie fans version of Top Gun. It's a good movie. And I actually thought Navy SEALs was going to be bad because there's a lot of people that were like, oh, that movie's not really good at all. It is a good movie, but it's not a good movie. Right? I think this is actually a great movie for Vinegar Syndrome because it is a big budget movie. It was not a cheap movie. It was a very expensive movie. And it's very practical effects driven. And I know that sounds silly to say, but based off of the stuff Louis Teague was talking about, this was a time where some people were really dipping their toes into the computer stuff. Like he was talking about James Cameron doing it. But there's some cool mini model stuff that they did in this movie, and there's obviously a lot of explosions. It's an awesome movie about the Navy SEALs, and I think at the time in the 90s, I don't know if the Navy SEALs were really a thing that were they're rock stars now. When you hear the term Navy SEALs, everybody knows it. But I think back then it wasn't as big of a thing, and I wonder if that's one of the reasons this movie probably didn't do as good as it should have. I think this movie came in under budget on its box office domestically. I don't know about overseas, and I think it did really well on home video. But yeah, it underperformed. And it came out in 1990, so maybe it was a little bit tired at that time. There was a ton of military movies, I think, around that time, and if not military, military-based stuff. Like at this point, we were already past the third Rambo film. Schwarzenegger had done Commando, so I wonder if there was a little bit of fatigue with that sort of stuff. But Navy SEALs was actually a good movie. It's basically about the Navy SEALs. They're a tight-knit group. They're friends. They have some inner turmoil. There's the terrorist stuff going on. It's a very simplistic plot. It's very easy to follow along. And there's some pretty good drama in there. And I loved Charlie Sheen in this. I mean, it's funny because I get hints of Wild Thing in here. Just the way he's a rebel, right? Like, not the way he talks so much, but is you can see a hint of Wild Thing Vaughn from Major League in here, which ironically I think he did this movie immediately after Major League, because this was 1990, Major League was 1989, so I assume he filmed this right after filming principal photography for Major League. So I actually think the movie's good. It's a good movie. On a scale of 1 to 10, like a 6.5. I really enjoyed it, but like I get what people mean when they say, "Oh, that movie's not that great," because I think at the time the perception was this is a big deal. This is Navy SEALs. So when you compare it to like a Top Gun, it's not pop culture whatsoever. But as a movie, it's a good movie. I actually like it. Stacked up to the rest of the Vinegar Syndrome movies, like there's some really good ones, like Southern Comfort, Roadhouse, and then you've got like Cloak and Dagger. And I think Navy SEALs is probably top 3 or 4 of the movies that Vinegar Syndrome's VSU line has. I really enjoyed it. So the movie gets a thumbs up from me. Yeah, so let's talk about the release itself and let's look at it. I love the cover, guys. It's very vibrant. The camera really doesn't do it justice, but of course we got our big Navy SEALs logo, and the artwork on the back is really, really cool. There's Charlie. So with all Vinegar Syndrome releases, they flip open. And my favorite thing about this is on the inside, they feature the golf scene, which the golf scene was awesome because that's when they play The Boys Are Back in Town. It's just a bunch of drunk military guys golfing. And, yeah, that was great. So I love that. Before seeing this movie, I opened it up and looked at it, and I was like, what? These guys are in the Navy, and they're in the midst of battle. Why are they golfing? Where are they at? But then you realize, like, they are coming to and from home very frequently, which I don't know if that was very realistic. But, you know, the interesting thing was Louis Teague, the director, was in the military, and he wanted to make this movie seem as realistic as possible. So I guess who am I to say that that's not realistic? Which that's the other thing. People always tell me all the time, this movie doesn't really represent the military lifestyle that well. But as I was watching the special features, all I hear is Louis Teague saying, I wanted this movie to be as realistic as possible. What I like about the book is the book is not too thick. It's actually very easy to read. Great information in here, but it's not a huge book. Sometimes when they're really, really big, it's almost daunting to want to flip through them. So I actually read through the whole book, and it was really good. Let me see if it's got the smell. Let's give it the smell test. This actually does smell like an Arrow book. This does smell like an Arrow book. The slipcover I'm not in love with. I would have preferred to go with something more like the album art that they have, but it's very patriotic. I'll give it that. It's just not what I had in mind, but, you know, I think I'm allowed a few nitpicks with this. I like everything, but the slip art for that is not great. We get the big case art on here, but you can reverse it. But I don't like the reverse art. I think that was probably the VHS art. I don't like that, so I'm gonna keep it with the gorgeous night, the gorgeous skyline with the guys jumping out. I think that looks really cool. Of course, you get a Blu-ray and 4K. My Blu-ray is in the TV right now, and both discs look identical. So there you go. No off-gassing in this one, guys. If you don't know what I'm talking about, people, off-gassing was the weird fuzzy, not the weird cloudy stuff we were seeing in our 4K cases. The first time we started really seeing this was the Child's Play 2 cases, or at least that when we started noticing it. Look, guys, I'm going to tell you, like, honestly, in terms of the VSU line, this is top 5 for me in terms of, like, total package releases. And the biggest thing for me is the movie. The movie, I liked it. I really liked the movie. Now, I can totally see why some people will say, it is a big budget thing, and it lacks that X factor that would make it a pop culture movie. It is very much a cult feeling movie, but it's a big budget cult feeling movie, and I like the water stuff. Like, I have a phobia of the water, so watching it on TV is very like intense and intriguing for me. So seeing the submarine, seeing some of the fight scenes that Charlie Sheen has where he battles a guy underwater in the ocean, that stuff freaks me out. I have a huge submechanophobia, so like, yeah, this movie kind of triggered all that for me. So I just think it's gorgeous, guys. I really like this release. I'm a huge fan of the VSU line. I can't say enough good things about the VSU line. I just love it. So this one's going to get, I'm going to give it 2 thumbs up. Let's go look at the special features real quick, guys, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, so we have Real Seals director Louis Teague on bringing authenticity to Navy SEALs. He did a great interview, absolutely great interview. True Blue screenwriter Gary Goldman on bringing Navy SEALs to life. A touch of patriotism. Nicholas Cotty on portraying Ben Shahid. Medal of Honor, Walter Chaw on the career of Louis Teague and Navy SEALs. It's not a ton. It's a good number of special features. It's actually the perfect amount to be like, okay, they definitely put their time and effort into this, right? And the Louis Teague interview was great. He really went into detail about the making of the movie, so I think you guys will really be happy with this. I don't think this is sold out yet, so I tell you guys, I say go for it. If you can get your hands on this now and order it, go for it. It's going to sell out. I really do think so, because it is a bigger profile movie. It's not like Six String Samurai or even really Sidekicks. But, yeah, this is a bigger deal movie. This will sell out. So don't miss out on this, guys. And even if you're not even a VSU collector, but you're a fan of Charlie Sheen, Michael Biehn, military movies, I think you'll get a kick out of Navy SEALs. So, yeah, big ups for me on that, guys. So there you go, guys. Navy SEALs is the latest VSU, and my collection is up to date, and now I can sleep easy at night. Thank you guys for watching this. God bless you, and I'll see you next time. Huge, giant thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Without you guys, this would not be possible. To get behind-the-scenes photos, videos, music, private live streams, and much more, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thank you to my patrons.